All right. Welcome, everybody. I think we'll just give folks one more minute here to trickle in before we get started. Thanks for joining us. And could you let me know, Srileka or Logan, if there's a quorum present? Seems like there probably is, but
I think we need 6, and
6.
right now I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 5. I've got Derek. I've got Mass DOT, Intercore Committee, MAPC, Trick, and Boston.
Okay. Is the MBTA advisory board? I've called on Amira. I know that. I see Len's here
Yes,
now too.
I'm here.
Okay, so and you're a voting member. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Then
Okay,
we do.
okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, sounds good. All right, then I will call this meeting of the Boston Metropolitan Planning Organization Unified Planning Work Program Committee to order. I'll first just read the notice of non-discrimination. You're invited to participate in the transportation planning process regardless of race, color, national origin, including limited English proficiency, religion, creed, gender, ancestry, ethnicity, disability, age, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, veteran status or background. Now move to the virtual meeting guidelines. So all participants will join this meeting with muted microphones. Please rename yourself on Zoom to include your first name, last name, and affiliation. You are able to mute and unmute yourselves as participants, but to participate in the discussion, please select the raise hand function by either clicking on the participants button at the bottom of the screen, and a window will pop up with the raise hand button, or you can use the reaction button in the toolbar, and then I will call on you. If you are joining by phone, you can use *9 to raise your hand. And if you have any technical difficulties, please contact Logan Casey via the chat box or by email at lcasey@ctps.org. Now move to the accessibility statement. So this meeting is being recorded and the meeting is accessible to people with disabilities. Zoom products are compliant with the following standards: Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.1, Level AA standards, and revised Section 508 standards. Again, if you require any additional accommodations in order to participate fully in the meeting, please contact Logan Casey of MPO staff via the chat box or at lcasey@ctps.org. So now we can move to the first item on the agenda, which is introductions. I am here from MassDOT Office of Transportation Planning, Derek Cravat. I'll just go through the role here. MAPC.
Good afternoon, Eric Barassa with MAPC.
Eric, Town of Arlington, Daniel Amstutz. Don't see Daniel here.
He will not be here.
You will not. Okay. Yep, that's right. I did see that message from you. Sounds good. Although we acknowledge his service on the MPO and wish him the best as a committee. Yes. Next, I see City of Boston Transportation Department.
Yeah, Bill Conroy representing Mayor Wu in the City of Boston.
Great. Well, Bill. Metro West, City of Framingham. Don't see the SWAP subregion, Medway. Don't see anyone. City of Newton.
I don't think David Coase is able to make it today.
Okay, no problem. I will move to the TRIC and NVRC subregion.
Hi, Tom O'Rourke from Town of Norwood Trick.
Hi, Tom. Town of, oh, okay, that's that one. Inner Core Committee, City of Somerville.
Yeah, Tom Bent representing Mayor Valentine and Unicorn.
Great. MBTA Advisory Board, Amira Patterson.
Good afternoon, everyone. Amira Patterson, representing the MBTA Advisory Board.
Great. And last but not least is RTAC, Len Diggins.
Len Diggins and Advisory Council here. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Len. Great. So I think with that, we can move to the next agenda item, which is public comments. Are there any members of the public present that would like to make a comment at this time? All right, seeing none. If you do have a comment, you can feel free to type anything in the chat during the meeting, raise your hand. You can also provide a written comment to Srilekha Murthy via email at smurthy@ctps.org. If you have any comments or you think of them later and want to run that by staff. Okay, so the next agenda item is a summary and approval of the June 30th, 2022 meeting. Did you want to? Oh, I guess I'll first ask for a motion and a second to approve these meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the summary.
And I will second that motion.
Okay, so motion having been made and seconded. Are there any questions or comments on the meeting summary as posted to the website? All right, seeing none. Jonathan, I think you can call the roll, or I'll call the roll. Sorry about that, force of habit. Derek Cravat from Mastat, I vote yes. Eric Barassa,
Yes.
Bill Conroy,
Yes.
Tom O'Rourke,
Yes.
Tom Bent,
Yes.
Amira Patterson,
Yes.
and Len Diggins.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries or passes. Can go to the next agenda item, which is a summary of the July 21st, 2022 meeting summary. I'll again ask for a motion and second to approve this meeting summary.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, any comments or question on the July 21st summary? All right, seeing none. Mastat votes yes. Eric Barassa,
Yes.
Bill Conroy,
Bill Conroy, yes.
Tom O'Rourke,
Yes.
Tom Bent,
Yes.
Amira Patterson,
Yes.
and Len Diggins.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So that carries as well. So now we'll get to our kind of more substantive item, which is the endorsement of federal fiscal year 2023 Unified Planning Work Program Adjustment number 1. So I'll hand it over to you, Srilekha, to summarize the adjustment.
Thank you, Derek, and good afternoon, everyone. And thanks so much for joining us on this marathon of MPO meetings today. Today, I'll be presenting the FFY 2023 UPWP Adjustment 1, which contains adjustments to the MAPC budget for this fiscal year. And at the end, I'll request that you please vote to endorse this adjustment. Next slide, please, Logan. So this adjustment focuses on increases to MAPC's tasks in the UPWP. And the table on the next slide will show the exact amount for each increase. The reason we're asking for an adjustment is because the increase in each line item is under 25% of the line item's total budget. Therefore, we're requesting an adjustment rather than an amendment. Next slide, please. So here you can see the table that we put together, just outlining where the increases are and how much each task is being increased by. If you want to read those a bit more closely, We have posted a redline version of the UPWP on the website, and I think we also emailed it out to everyone. So I encourage you to refer to that as well in Chapter 7. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Eric Brassett to get into a little bit more detail about the increases to specific subtasks.
Yeah, thank you, Srileka. So the backstory here is, every year we get the funding amounts from Federal Highway and Federal Transit. Usually we get sort of an estimate, right, Derek, like is it January when we usually have that big meeting and we have an estimate of what we think the PL and the 5303 funds are going to be, and we start to develop the UPWP, both the CDPS, which is the majority of the funds, their component, and MAPC, which is a smaller amount. We start to develop based on those numbers. And then I guess at some point, the FTA portion of it, they come back and they say, well, here's how the number has changed based on our estimate. And in this case, it went up, right, Derek?
Right. Yes. Yeah, we usually hear from FTA in about March of every year, which is past the time that we begin planning for the budgets for the next year's contracts, that they get what's called a revised apportionment. And so they send us updated information that has additional funds that should be incorporated into the work program budget.
And somehow I think Derek's communicated this in an email, but somehow I missed it. And I think it kind of fell through the cracks. And by the time we caught it, we had already essentially put the UPWP out for public comment in August. And so we said, well, instead of stopping that process and delaying everything, let's just, we'll just do an amendment. Or in this case, an adjustment, because the changes are small for each task portion. So that's the story behind the increase for MAPC. That was almost $100,000 increase in the FTA funds. What we've done here is we've basically spread it among most of the task areas in the UPWP that MAPC is doing work in. And the two areas that sort of have where we put the most amount of funds are the first two tasks. So corridor sub-area planning studies. Under that area, most of that increase is going to support our work around transit-oriented development planning, with a real focus on supporting cities and towns to comply with the MBTA communities multifamily housing requirement 3A. I think many of you have followed this, and we want to support not only technical assistance to help cities and towns be able to comply with this, but we want to focus in on making these sites truly transit oriented and how we incorporate really good transportation connections and planning for that, as well as regional research to identify where are the best opportunities in the region for rezoning these sites to be truly transit oriented. So that's a good portion of that increase for that item. And then for the second one, alternative mode planning and coordination, we're doing a lot of work supporting cities and towns with planning for zero emission vehicles, particularly electric vehicles. And that's another area where we put sort of this increased fund into more of that work on electric vehicle planning, as well as bicycle pedestrian planning. We get a lot of requests from cities and towns to help with various aspects of bicycle pedestrian planning. So we put that a little more funds into that area. The rest of the task items, we've sort of spread it around, ranging from, a $10,000 increase to, to 1,000, and really just, adding more, more time and more capacity to kind of round out those work areas. So I'm happy to answer, any questions that folks have about this. Overall, we're, very excited to see this increase in federal funds and support, the work that we do. And unfortunately, I didn't catch it in time to incorporate it into the full UPWP, but making this adjustment, my understanding, Derek and Srileka, is that this is, relatively straightforward.
Right. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, and the actual contract amount is accommodates this increase. So it's not like we're changing the contract. It's just the current amount programmed is less than the total contract amount. So this will just round out that amount with us. So no, thank you for that summary. And I'll just add, I think there was some turnover on our end as well and changing in responsibilities. And I looked back and it did look like, Eric, that I may have not included you on that email. So I do apologize. And I want to make sure everyone's aware that this is something, I'm aware of and on our office and others. So it's something that we, I'll be more proactive about making sure this is on there next year. Like you're, of course, on that list now, Eric, and we'll make sure that, we get this to you in time. So this doesn't happen in the future, but just wanted to state that and convey apologies for that oversight on our end. But that was a good summary. So are there any questions for Eric or Srileka?
Just a quick statement. If you want to hang out with us, you don't have to go through all of this. You can just say, hey, I want to hang out for another meeting. So I appreciate how it happened. I understand. So hey, when the time comes, I'll be happy to make a motion. If someone else doesn't.
Thank you.
Thanks, Len. Oh, yes, Bill.
I just had a question on the adjusted budget. Obviously every item's different, every project is different. Was there, those numbers are just to reflect based upon inflation and other cost of materials and other things? How was that all determined?
So this is all planning. So this is all this is all person time, and and we fund a lot of things at MAPC with a combination of our UPWP funds as well as other technical assistance funds that we have. And so, for example, we've been gearing up. I was mentioning this whole work on the MBTA communities, the 3A. So we've been gearing up internally to figure out how we're going to both support cities and towns who, who are looking to comply with the new law and want to do that rezoning, as well as how we educate other communities about, the importance of this and do some regional research to identify where we think there are really great opportunities in the region to to rezone and see more transit-oriented development around stations. And so we're going to be funding the majority of that work with other resources at MAPC. But I want to make sure, and we've had some internal conversations, that you can rezone around a commuter rail station per se, but if the development has lots of parking and there's no good way to walk to the train station, and there's no bike parking, and we don't actually think of all the transportation elements that go into it, then the people that live there might just drive, and it's not a truly transit-oriented site. And so we want to make sure that there's a strong transportation element to that planning as well, and that's what we're carving out more of these funds for. So Bill, it's for each one of these things. We've just looked at what how to expand the kind of the scope of the work that we can do, and this is almost all of this, is people time.
Okay, that's great. Thanks for educating me, Eric. I appreciate it. And obviously you and your staff do a great job as well. So that was just the question I had. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Bill and Eric. Any other questions for Eric? All right. Not seeing any, so it can be a fairly quick discussion, but I know, Len, you had mentioned making a motion, so I guess at this time I'll ask for a motion and second to endorse this adjustment because it is under that 25% threshold that Srileka mentioned. This can be just kind of a quick vote, and we can send it to the MPO for their endorsement without a public comment period and having to get federal approval. I think this can just be, treated as an adjustment with one vote of endorsement. So with all of that said, is there a motion and second to endorse this adjustment and send it to the MPO for their endorsement at their next meeting?
I'm tempted to say so moved, but I'll make the formal motion and say I make a motion to endorse this adjustment to UPWP.
Okay. Thank you, Len.
I'll second that.
Okay, great. So motion now made and seconded. I'll just ask one more time if there are any questions, comments. All right, seeing none, I will call the roll. So Mascot votes yes. Eric Barrasso,
Yes.
Bill Conroy,
Bill Conroy, yes.
Tom O'Rourke,
Yes.
Tom Bent, you there, Tom?
After lunch, wake him up.
No, he's there. I think he's having some audio
Oh, is it
issues.
audio? Okay.
He's giving a thumbs up.
Okay, I see that. Yep,
So-
perfect. Sounds good. No worries. All right, so record that as a yes. Amira Patterson,
Yes.
Len Niggins.
Yes.
Okay, and I saw a few folks come in. I'm not sure if there are any additional voting members here, but I believe that calls the roll and endorses this. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
See ya. Couple weeks or so. Bye.
Okay, so that was the sort of substantive agenda item for today. Really the purpose of having us meet, and appreciate everybody doing that. So then the next item is just members items. Are there any other items from members that they want to bring before the committee today? Okay, seeing none. Next item is just next meeting. I don't think we have a date finalized on the calendar yet. But of course, we'll meet as needed. There's things, change, and there could arise a need for a meeting. So we'll keep folks posted if that need does arise. But for now, we don't have anything scheduled yet. I know that time goes by fast, and before we know it, we'll be here discussing the next UPWP cycle. But that will all, of course, be communicated
Right.
in the coming months.
Just question, Srilekha, I think most of the subregions will be discussing UPWP or have already discussed it, correct?
Yes, yeah. I've been going to the separation meetings.
So are there ones coming up that have not discussed it yet?
Let's see.
Just so if folks want to participate in any of those.
Of course. So next week we have North Shore Task Force, South Shore Coalition, and I think
Are those on the calendar?
and RTAC.
Yes.
They should. Well, RTAC should be on the calendar.
Yeah, they're on the calendar. I was looking at it earlier. Yeah, so
Oh, yes. And then we will be at TRIC on November 15th. Oh, and my apologies. I think we'll be at SWAP on the 8th of November.
So obviously this is, time when we're asking people to start thinking about the study. So looking forward to, those conversations, and then, starting to ramp up the next development. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Eric. Srilekha. So yeah, we'll just stay in touch on our next meeting. But nothing at this time. But yeah, I think with that we can definitely wrap up early. So I'll just ask for a motion and second to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions. All right, without objection, I think we're adjourned. So thank you everybody for coming together, and we will be in touch for the next meeting. So have a good rest of the day. Thank
Have
you.
a good one, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Derek.